rise for the posting of colors and remain standing for the Pledge of Allegiance.
Join me in the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Would you please be seated? Thank you. Thank you for joining us today to celebrate the Staff Sergeant Norma J. Inman Memorial Sign Dedication Ceremony. My name is Mark Shelton, and I'm the District Engineer for the Southeast District of the Missouri Department of Transportation, and really the only reason that MoDOT or I get involved in these things is that it's a highway naming, and the signs go up on the right of way, and so that's kind of why we're involved. But I tell you, I never miss one of these, whether it's a Hero's Way or a memorial signing, when it's for one of our soldiers who has served well, and I think about, and I'm honored really just to be standing before you today to honor an individual from Missouri who's no longer with us, but certainly will continue to be remembered and will touch many lives in the Arcadia Valley area for years and years to come. Sergeant Inman was a graduate of Arcadia Valley High School. He was a staff sergeant in the Missouri Army National Guard, 1140th. And he served his country proudly in Iraq during Operation Iraqi Freedom. He was also a member of the St. Paul Lutheran Church, the Arcadia Valley Elks Lodge, the Ironton VFW Post, the Leadwood Masonic Lodge, and was active in Babe Ruth baseball, Little Dribblers, and the Boy Scouts of America. Sergeant Inman passed away at his home this past January, leaving behind a wife, Connie, sons Josh, Justin, and Jonathan, and mother Myrtle. And I'd like for each one of those individuals, if you would please stand to be recognized. We are truly, sincerely sorry. But we understand that Sergeant Inman touched the lives of many, many throughout this community, and certainly can be noted by all of the activities and things that he was involved in. We have several speakers here today that will share some memories and dedicate the honor that the sergeant had. And we'll begin begin with our speakers list today, representing the Honorable United States Senator Claire McCaskill, Mrs. Kristen Mercer.
Thank you. Good afternoon. Sergeant Inman's family. On behalf of Senator McCaskill, I want to thank you for the invitation to be part of this dedication ceremony. Claire wishes that she could be here in person, and she sends all her best to Staff Sergeant Inman's family and friends and to the local community. I have a couple of brief comments from her I'd like to share with you this time. It is important for us as a nation to take time to thank and pay proper respects to heroes like Staff Sergeant Inman, who served in the Missouri National Guard, led him 40th, and served his country in Iraq during Operation Iraqi Freedom. Today's dedication will remind all who drive the stretch of highway what his family and friends already know, that he was a patriot, willing to serve the country he loved so much and to protect our freedoms. She would also like to thank Sergeant Inman's family for allowing the Missouri State to honor their loved one in this way. The millions who travel here will learn of the high example that he has set in honor, patriotism, and sacrifice. The dedication of this highway will help us to keep our promise to never forget what Sergeant Inman and his fellow men and women in uniform have done for our sakes. Thank you, and God bless you.
Thank you, Kristen. Our next speaker is Miss Cassie Thomas, and she's here representing the Honorable United States Representative Joanne Anderson.
Good afternoon. Thank you for having me today. I'm sorry that Joanne couldn't make it. The family is so sorry for your loss. This is a great honor for you to be here to do this for me. I'm just going to read a letter that Joanne wrote for this occasion. Today we recognize and honor Staff Sergeant Norman J. Inman. I was so happy to learn of the remaking of this portion of Highway 21 in Ironton County in his honor. There is no better time to remind the citizens of our community about the selfless service he performed to our community. Staff Sergeant Inman was active in a number of local organizations, including St. Paul's Lutheran Church, Elks, VFW, and Boy Scouts of America. But his greatest sacrifice was his service to our nation as a soldier. He demonstrated courage and extreme modesty when serving our country in the Middle East. All Americans who serve in the armed forces can teach us valuable lessons, but the most important one is service. There is no way to properly repay those who serve in our military for the sacrifices they and their families make. I am so sorry I could not be in attendance today. I hope this occasion will serve as a reminder that we can do great things for our communities to help those around us. Staff Sergeant Inman should serve as an inspiration to us all for his commitment to his community. Thank you.
And our next speaker is the Honorable Missouri State Senator from the 3rd District, Kevin Inman.
Good afternoon. You know, this is not a wake or a funeral. It's a celebration. I'm excited to be here. Are you excited to be here? It's exciting to me when we do something in the state to honor our heroes. And I'm not talking about Mark McGuire or a football hero or basketball star. I'm talking about the heroes that put their lives on the line for us each and every day, abroad, overseas, wherever the occasion arises. Yeah. I'm going to tell you, I'm a little disappointed I don't have a t-shirt. And so we're going to have to work that later. But it's good to be here. I don't come here politically. As those of you know, I'm term limited, and you guys will never have the opportunity to vote against me again. So, but we We've done some things the last few years. Paul's going to talk about the sergeant, a little bit about him and his life. I'm going to talk about the overall cause, because there's things that we've done, and I was fortunate to write a bill a few years ago that gave the governor the ability to lower the flag and have staff for our fallen soldiers. And it's things like that. When you see the flag at half staff now, you should recognize the fact that someone have given their life for this state and for this country. And I remember the fights we had, whether we should be done for a period of time or just in the county that the person was from. No, we should all stop. I don't care if they're from Maryville or Joplin or St. Louis. When you see that flag flying half staff, you know that somebody gave their life for this state. Just as when you drive by this, forever we will go by this highway. And those of you who live here will go by it almost every day. And hopefully it will trigger a memory that, yes, there are people that serve us. And there are people that are serving us to this day, this hour, across the sea, that are putting their lives on the line. Just yesterday and the day before, we lost people over there in the service of this country, with the State Department or the Army. And I used to tell people, kids would go to school, and they said, "Well, what's the fun part of being a senator?" Well, we do this. What's the work? Well, I used to say the worst part was, dealing with ugly people, people that are upset. But the last few years, since I've had to deploy troops, and usually I'm the highest ranking people, that the person in the state that actually represents myself, so I'm the one that gives the deployment. There's nothing harder than to deploy troops. And there's nothing harder, especially when you're deploying for a second time. You can't lie to the spouse and the kids know it's going to be okay, don't worry, because they know they've been there. When that phone calls come in and they've had to tell their kids, don't tell Dad about this, we don't want him upset. Just tell them everything's fine. It's tough when Mom has to take over, and most of the time it's Mom that has to take over and do the sacrifices that they make. So it's always a joyous occasion when we do the ceremonies when they come back. Unfortunately, I've had several that haven't come back, and there's nothing like getting a picture of you with someone on their deployment that gave their life while they were deployed. Some of you have been at ceremonies we've had at this high school, and I have at other high schools, where we talk about kids to the kids and try to emphasize to them the importance of the service to the country. Because most of the time they don't understand. The kids that are in high school now have never been around when there wasn't cell phones. They've never been around when there wasn't fax machines. They've never been hardly around when there wasn't Skype. They don't understand the sacrifices that the men and women have made for this country to keep it free. And so it's incumbent upon Representative Fitzwater and Mike, when we go around and talk at veteran ceremonies and Memorial Day ceremonies and to services at the schools, to try to emphasize to the kids and the high schoolers what service. And I use local examples. And a couple of them I use are sergeants, because it seems like sergeants run the Army if you've been deployed. And we talk about people that in World War II that were away for 4 years. And these high school kids, that's the whole time you're in high school. Didn't get to see their new wife. Didn't get to communicate with them. The letters would come weeks later. You don't get to pick up the cell phone. You don't get to come home every 6 months. You were gone for years. So when you're talking to your children and grandchildren, explain to them the sacrifices that people make. Just that they just don't go off to Army, that they make sacrifices, and their families make sacrifices. And it's up to us to honor those sacrifices. Today we do that. And we do it in a visible manner, so that every time that you pass that highway, you're going to see the memorial and you will remember. And that's my challenge to you today, is to remember. Not only the sergeant, but everyone that serves and serves this country. Every time you go by them. And say a little prayer, thank you. And please bless their families. Give them strength. Help them as they help us. So I'm happy to be here today. It's a great occasion to be able to honor somebody, one of our locals, someone that has served and has meant so much to the community. If you've ever heard me give a commencement speech, you know I talk on the theme of not so much changing the world, but changing your world. He changed our world, and he changed your world in the valley. by the things that he did and the people that he was associated with and the children that he helped, whether the Boy Scouts or whatever. So I thank you for letting me come and speak today, and I thank you so much for giving us this great person in honor today. Thank you to the family, and thank you so much. This is one of the biggest, unfortunately, I've had made several of these ceremonies. This is one of the biggest turnouts I've ever seen in one. We thank you for your commitment to your servicemen and women and to your country. Thank you.
Senator, thank you. Our next speaker this afternoon is representing the 152nd District, the Honorable Missouri State Representative Paul Fisher.
What an honor it is to be here today. Someone asked me at the Capitol on Wednesday, was I going to make it down here? And I said, it'd take the Army National Guard to keep me away from here today. But like I said, it's an honor to be here and recognize Sergeant Inman. It just seems like I never personally had the opportunity to meet the sergeant, but in an indirect way, I kind of have. I heard he was a big avid fan of Arcadia Valley basketball, and he loved the Thanksgiving tournament every year. And I'm sure that he's probably said some things to me up and down this floor many times. So we sort of met in an indirect way, but what an honor it is to be here today. Just to tell you a quick story how this all started. Basically, Junior contacted me in my office a few months ago, and he asked me if I would sponsor some legislation in the Missouri House that would name a highway after Staff Sergeant Norman Inman. And I've never done that before. You know, I'm pretty new as a representative, but I'm very proud. I said, yeah, you bet I will. But after I decided, I thought, well, you know, I'll do that. I thought, well, I better look into this a little bit. And I know several people around here, so I came down here and went around and seen about 4 or 5 different people, and everybody I went to, they told me that Staff Sergeant Inman was a carry man. He was in the Scouts. He was had the heart of a lion, and anytime anyone needed anything, guess what? He was there. He was there. He could provide shoes for people, and you know, I thought to myself, you know what? That's the kind of guy I want on my team. That's the kind of guy that I want on my team. So I filed the legislation, and I'm very proud to do that. And I contacted Junior's wife, Debbie, and they actually came up and testified on behalf of this bill. And when he got to my office, excuse me, at the Capitol that morning, and Junior was a little bit nervous, I'll have to admit. He was nervous. He never testified before a House committee on transportation before, and I told him, just to relax, you'll do great. And I'm going to tell you something, he knocked it out of the ballpark. We went down to that hearing, I presented the bill, he stepped up there to the microphone, and even after that hearing, I had several representatives. You know what, your buddy there, he did a good job. But the legislation, it moves forward. Basically, legislation, you know, sort of like you have to grease the wheels, and I made sure we pushed it along. But this bill I have in my hand here almost didn't come to be. I was very disappointed. Matter of fact, it had gone through the channels, and government's a process. And I remember on the very last day of session, it had not passed yet. And I gave him my word. I gave Junior my word. I said, we're going to get this thing through. There were several memorial highways, but there was an amendment by one of the other representatives that she had attached to these bills. And we was 30 minutes from adjourning for the year. 30 minutes. I said, I'm going to make it one last attempt. I went over to her and I said, Representative, you have no idea what you're doing here. You know, she had a little an amendment that she wanted to get through, and it wasn't going to go. She was willing to kill every one of those memorial highways, and I pleaded with her. And you know what? She stepped up to the microphone and graciously withdrew her amendment, and we brought this up, and it passed. Barely passed. So here we are today, recognizing Sergeant Inman. What a man he must have been. What joy, as Senator English says, you know, he was a man of all men. This is not a way. This is a joyous moment. I hope to be able to travel through Ironton for many years to come. And I want you to know every time that I would travel by that section of highway and I see these beautiful signs, I just, you know what, when I got there, I wanted to pull that off and take a look at it. I was afraid I'd get in trouble. But I can't wait to see it, because this is the day that many of us have waited for. But as I travel through Ironton for the years to come, I will travel by there. There won't be a time that I will look up there and think of Staff Sergeant Norman Inman, and think that, maybe I had just something to do with that. I was just did the labor. The family, and Junior and his family, they did all the work. They did all the work. So I'm very proud, very, very proud to be here today to serve as your representative, and I couldn't be more proud. Yeah, I'd like for Connie, if I may call you, would you please come up here, you and the boys, and the family. What I have here, and there's another story behind this one too. This is a copy of the original bill, House Bill number 1807, that we filed on behalf of this Memorial Highway. I was sitting in a meeting, well, matter of fact, I got an email from Junior, and he'd asked me if I always get one. I have the original one in my office, and when the governor signs something, he sends the bill down to you, and he sends the pen that he signs it with, and you sort of do this, and they're sort of like trophies on your wall. And I'm so proud. As a matter of fact, I was fortunate enough this year in the Missouri House, the governor signed 5 of my bills. But this is the very first bill that I had ever individually signed, and I'll always treasure that. But I didn't have a copy, so yesterday, or on Wednesday, I was at the Capitol, I was setting up my seat in the House, and I remember Junior, and I called down to my secretary, and I said, listen, I need a copy of the bill, and I said, I want the governor to sign as the governor in the House. Well, people just can't go to the governor's office and walk in. And he's kind of hard to get to see. And so I went to my office, and June said, well, I told word that it's up there, the governor may sign it. I said, no, he's not may going to sign it, he's going to sign it. So I actually went up to the governor's office myself. Actually, when his son was in high school, I used to referee some of his games. So the governor's had a few choice words for me too, I'm sure. But I went up there, and I told him, I said, listen, if you just come out and talk to me, he knows who I am, and if he would just come out, and I told him what the situation was, and he graciously took the pen, signed this bill, and I went and had it put in the frame. So on behalf of my office, to the family, I want you to have this. As a matter of fact, you can actually open this up, and you can open it up and see the legislation itself. But I'm very proud to be able to present to you House Bill 1807, and which recognizes a small portion of Highway 21 as the Staff Sergeant Norman Inman Highway. Thank you very much. This young man just informed me that I gave him his first technical in high school. What a day. Thank you very much.
Representative, thank you for those comments. Our next speaker is the Honorable Randall Head, Associate Circuit Judge.
Ladies and gentlemen, I'm very honored to be speaking with you on such an important occasion. We're here today to honor our hero, Norman Inman, to remember his achievements, his courage, and to say thank you for his sacrifices. I'm very pleased that I was able to call myself Norman's friend. Norman's wife, Connie, is one of my wife Paula's dearest friends. I had the pleasure to coach Little League Baseball with Norman when his son Josh and my son Jason were growing up. I don't remember winning very many games, but I remember having a lot of fun with Norman and the kids. If losing games helps build character, then Josh and Jason will never ever suffer from any lack of character. I'd like to think that even though Norman and I may not have been the greatest coaches in the world, that maybe, just maybe, we taught them a little something about life and life's lessons other than baseball. And I guess we were somewhat successful because not very many of those young men appeared in front of me in court. Norman and I also served in our local VFW together, and Norman did as much as anyone to make sure that post was successful. I'm honored to serve as quartermaster of VFW Post 5527, and on behalf of our post, we are so proud to be able to assist in making this honor possible today for Norman, his family, and his friends. I thank Commander Bob Schroer and all the VFW members for their support in this event today. So what can we say about Norman and this larger-than-life character who touched so many lives? There are lots of words that can be applied to Norman. Strong, dedicated, loyal. He was a small-town boy who went to war for his country. Norman was a warrior in every sense of the word. But I want to suggest a word to you today that is too seldom applied to our warriors, and that word is love. Norman loved his God. He loved his wife, Connie. He loved his sons, Josh, Justin, and Jonathan, his family, his hometown, and his country. Norman did not go to war because he hated. He went to war because he loved all of those things. They were important to him, and he would have given his very life to preserve and protect each and every one of them. Norman was far too busy loving life to waste time hating. In my opinion, the greatest honor we can bestow on Norman Inman today is to share his love of life, family, and community. I ask today that you surround his family with love and with every day hereafter. Be kind to each other. Help pull your neighbor up instead of watching her be dragged down. That's what Norman would do. Love one another and love your community. And lastly, make this world a better place for the brave men and women of our military when they come home. God knows they've earned it. God bless Norman Inman. God bless each and every one of you. And God bless America. Thank you.
Our next speaker is presiding Iron County Commissioner Don Orzowski.
I count myself as a friend of Norman's. I didn't drink beer with Norman or go hunting with Norman. I didn't know what his favorite color was. I wouldn't probably ask him what his favorite color was. He might hurt me. I would be scared to ask him questions like that. And I was thinking, why were we friends? I met him the first time he came to my classroom to tell kids about his tour in Iraqi. And that's always kind of a touchy thing, how you approach a veteran. If you walk past these stories on the younger kids who came, he was totally engaged and loved those kids, like the judge said, and shared all the souvenirs with them. He gave them and the stories. And then after that, what do we talk about? Every time I've had Norman, we talk about how to make kids' lives better or how to make the community better. And I think that's what we had done. I didn't go over to his house or anything like that, but I saw him a lot. This might be a little bit secret. All the kids ran across country. And one of the last times I saw him was out on the cross country course, and he was out there urging kids out, the fastest kid, the slowest kid, getting them across the line. Of course, those slowest kids got a lot faster when they saw him. Get across the line, boys. We have a saying in my house. It's, I'll do it. It started out as a little joke. And it sort of became a mantra at our house built for how we act as not only citizens of our household, but of our community. And, oh, by the way, I got my dignity. And I think that much made about Norman's military service, and I don't want to diminish that in any way, because I'm better myself, but that was not what caught my eye about Norman. Norman was a great civic leader, and he gave up all kinds of time for his local community. And the last time I talked to Norman, it's kind of weird because this is true. The last time I talked to Norman, about 3 weeks before he passed, I was asking him to do if he would do a difficult task for me that I needed done in the county. And he kept saying he would do it, and I kept saying, no, if you're not going to get paid, then I'll do it. I said, no, it's going to be controversial, it's going to be hard work, you're going to have to work without any resources, then I'll do it. And literally the last sentence he said to me was, anything the community needs, I'll do it. And so I want to challenge you, when you remember Norman, and when you see the sign, keep those words in your head. And I actually have a shirt for the senator. It's only an XL. I made these last night. I know they're not very good. And I have 3 XLs and 3 smalls because I think that what Norman would want is not only for people to do stuff, but to bring a young person along when they do it and teach them to carry out his tradition of community service, and I think that would be a fine honor for his memory. And so, who wants a shirt? We already got it. You can make your own. I have a stencil on my porch, and the shirts are like $4 at. Oh, sorry. I'm sorry, I only have 6, but. So next time you think about Norman, and someone asks you to do something, just say, I'll do it. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner. And now from the Missouri Army National Guard, our next speaker is Lieutenant Colonel Ed Garvis.
Morning, or I guess it is afternoon, excuse me. Thanks for having me. Found out when I was out of state late last week about this ceremony and how we were going to be able to resource this from the battalion. And when the email came through with my CC on it, just while I was tracking, I immediately responded by saying, I'll do it. So we got it. I'm going to try to stand up here and be more spirited than Senator Inman and more eloquent than the judge. But just to briefly hit some of the highlights of Sergeant Inman's military career. He served with Company A, 1140th Engineer Battalion out of Fredericktown, Department. Deployed in support of Operation Iraqi Freedom. I was the battalion operations officer, major at the time. He was with the House Company. He was a squad leader. He also served, deployed with several humanitarian missions in Central America, I believe in Panama and Honduras. Shortly after we got back from Iraq, well, about 6 years ago today, we were both serving in New Orleans after Hurricane Katrina. He served as an instructor for 2 years at our sapper school in Fort Leonard Wood. For those of you who aren't familiar with the engineering lingo, the sappers are the cream of the crop, the most elite. They're the rangers of the engineering corps. and he served as the instructor to make those young troops that way. Some things he did for the Guard, outside of the Guard, after he retired in 2005, he started a reunion just 3 years ago for all retirees, whether they were National Guard or active duty, veterans and current members of the Farmington and Fredericktown units, to get together once a year and visit. As so many in front of me have already said, he loved being around people, and everybody loved being around him. And he thought it was very important that any soldier from the area, no matter how far back or how their military career came about, could come together to share stories and just support each other for a day. Everybody knew he was dedicated to the Guard, he was dedicated to his family, and as we've already heard, he was very dedicated to his community. I understood he coached a little interleague program through the Arcadia Valley High School, and just everybody moved throughout the Ironton, Farmington, Arcadia Valley area. And I don't mind telling you, I did not know him as well as most. And, you know, it may have been even more appropriate for one of your own sons, my good friend, Lieutenant Colonel Chris Micken, at the top of the steps up there, to be standing in front of you instead of me. But as the battalion commander of the 1140th, I knew it was my job, and a little bit I did know of Norm. This is not something you don't want to be a part of and celebrate with. And it was said, you know, we are not out of wait. And so Norm left too soon. And there's none of us that's going to try to deny that. But I ask that you join me in not being mournful of his passing, but celebrate it. That our loving Creator saw he's a guy I went up here that much sooner and brought him home. And we all have something to look forward to catching up with him when our passing comes. But here's what else I did know about Norm. As I mentioned, you know, we deployed together with the battalion. I was a major, I was the S3, so I didn't get a lot of interaction with him, but I tell you, the Alpha Company, they were not at the little air base with the battalion problem. But as the operations officer, I had to get out every month and see our units to make sure that they were tracking what needed to be accomplished. They needed any battalion help. I was the guy that's supposed to get that back to the people with the brain to make that stuff happen. And I always liked going to visit Alpha Company because I'd always go make sure I said hi to Norm, because he just always brings a smile on your face. They were really disappointed about being there, not disappointed, or at least not showing disappointment being away from his town and his family, and proud of everything he did every day. Additionally, as Connie mentioned, pound for pound, strongest man by far I've ever met. So, also flat out ranking at that time. He had an extreme respect for the rank, and maybe one of the reasons I like to see him also is because every time I did, it got very easy for me the rest of the time. He always made sure there was somebody to grab my backpack for me, somebody to tote the book, whatever I needed. He made sure I had it just because he was that kind of guy and had the respect for the rank. But it wasn't just me. He put everybody else first and always wanted to give something back. Extremely well thought of and liked, as evidenced by the lengthy visitation when I was here in January for his passing. In closing, I'd just like to remind everybody too, this past Tuesday we celebrated the 11th anniversary of the terrorist attacks in New York City and Washington, D.C. And I'm sure all of us would love to go back to the way the world was prior to that event, but we can't. So as I try to find the positive outcomes of my experiences since that moment, one of those things is disappointment. Because without it, I probably wouldn't have ever met Norman. But I did know him. And as a result of his passing, I learned what type of person he really was. And I now challenge myself daily, as I challenge all 700 soldiers of my battalion, that we try to emulate his best qualities so that our service will always honor him. Thank you.
Thank you for those comments, Lieutenant Colonel. And our final speaker for this afternoon is one of Sergeant Inman's cousins, Mr. Charles. Charles Kendall Sparger, Jr.
Gosh, folks, I'm a little speechless. What line is that movie from? Anybody know what line that movie's from? Wizard of Oz. Remember the line at the end? He found his courage. And that's what Norman's about, is courage. He'd give ways to give you courage or encouragement if you needed it. But that's what Norman's about, courage. If you didn't think you could do something, he could talk to you in a way or put his hand on your shoulder and say, now you can do this. And he could pretty much get you to do things you probably wouldn't ordinarily do, but he could do those things. And just a little story about that. Last year, he come to my brother and myself and said, "Cuz," he says, "we need to have our family union back together. He said, we haven't done this for a bunch of years, and why don't we have it down the farm again?" We said, "Okay, let's do that. That'd be a pretty good idea." So we had our family get together down at the farm last year, and we're all eating dinner and everything, and he comes up, lays that big island-sized hand on my shoulder, just a little light squeeze like that. He says, "Cuz," he says, "why don't you run to the house and get your guitar and come down here and play a little music for us?" I said, "Well, Norm," I said, "my left hand is not doing real good. I can't make a C chord bend real well." He just squeezed just a little harder and said, "That's okay." He said, "You can do that. Just go up there and play." So I did. I went up to the house, got the guitar, old strings and all, and sat down and started playing some music, and kept playing, and kept playing, kept playing. The pain went away, and I think that was part of Norm there, kind of giving me courage to do something I didn't think I could do because of the pain in my finger. And he gave me that courage. And that's something everybody else could out here would learn about. It's courage. If there's something you don't think you can do, think about Norm. You'll have the courage to do whatever you need to do. He was the man to do it for you. I'd just like to thank a lot of folks really for doing this for Norman. Representative Fitzwater, worked your butt off. Thank you very much. Senator Amber, on the Senate side, you stood up for us as well. Thank you very much. Certainly appreciate it. The men from the National Guard, thank you guys. You know, Norman enjoyed being in the Guard. He loves his military service, and he was a credit to our nation for the things that we did for everybody. We're really good on that. Thank you to all the mayors, local from our cities here, Mayor Carr, Mayor Halkett, Mayor Chan. Thank you all for supporting. County Commissioner Barzowski. Thank you guys. Everything everybody said about Norm here today is true. That Norm was that kind of man. He would do anything for anybody. And I just think everybody's done a great job for him. Thanks to the Mountain Echo for covering in the paper here. Thanks to our representatives for Casco's office and John Emerson's office. Thank you all for being here. We certainly appreciate it. Our family is quite honored for y'all coming up here and talking to Norm and getting everything done here. Our friends at MoDOT, Nicole, Mindy up in Jefferson City. Thank you, ladies. You all did a great job. We certainly appreciate it. And on behalf of the family, Grant Lucy, for Connie and the boys and everybody in our family, I just want to thank you all very much for being here, for being a part of Norman, and thanks for being here. Thank you all.
Thank you, Mr. Kendall Sparger and the City of Ironton and the County Commission and certainly our speakers today, and Boy Scouts Troop 403, and the family of Staff Sergeant Inman. I'd also like to thank the Arcadia Valley High School for providing and allowing us to use the gymnasium today. Thank you for your hospitality. I do want to let you know that the signs will be up before dark today. So we'll get those up here in just a little bit, and then please make sure you go by and take a look at it. And have a warm thought about it. That kind of concludes the formal portion of our ceremony. What we would like to do is ask the family and the speakers if you would come up and unveil the sign, and we'll get some photographs of them.
Boys.